Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maria and today we're gonna be taking a look into my June wrap-up and my July TBR. The first book I read this month is Mr. Wrong Number by Lynn Painter. This book is about Olivia and she receives a message from a wrong number and she develops a flirtatious, friendly relationship with this random person that ends up being the hot, rich roommate of her brothers, which she has to live with them after she had an accident. This isn't a spoiler. It happens in like the second episode, in the second chapter. So what are my overall thoughts of the book? I gave it a 3 stars, but yeah, like a 2.5 stars because it was good. I had a fun time, but it was just very lacking in everything, basically. It is a really funny, easygoing book. If you want something really, really quick and with not real substance, you can choose this. This is good for that. One of the things that made me not like this book that much is that Colin, the rich hot roommate, is a little too perfect. And that bothers me. He doesn't have a single flaw. Not physically or in his personality. He's just too damn perfect. And I think this was on purpose because Olivia is shown to be a very unperfect person to contrast her with this perfect guy. So yeah, it can be intentional, but throughout the book she sometimes seemed just too rude. She's just rude and inconsiderate and she's not aware of it, even with people point it out to her. And this can be like a contrast between her and Colin. While he's completely perfectly flawless, she is not. And another thing I didn't like, and it's something I don't like generally speaking in romance books, when our main woman in love interest has a brother and the brother just threatens her love interests and it's like, you get with her and you're dead, like an overprotective brother. Of course it depends on the case, but when it's just like they're friends and he's just too overly protective of his sister, I just find that ridiculous. And it happened here, so yeah, 2.5 stars. Didn't start great, but it isn't the worst thing I've read. The second book I read is A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. You probably already knew that because I just uploaded a video of me analyzing and reading the book and watching the 1957 film adaptation. So if you're interested in watching a more in-depth commentary on this book, I highly suggest you check out that video. But for now, the book is about a romance between an American ambulance driver and a British nurse during World War I in Italy. This sounded just so exciting to me, but it I didn't really like it. I liked the writing style. I really do. I really like the descriptive writing style Hemingway has, and that's about everything I liked about the book. The characters have basically zero personality. If there's secondary characters, they are basically irrelevant to the story, and we have a lot of them. A lot that are useless, basically. The only character that had somewhat of a personality was our main character, but he was insufferable, condescending, and annoying. And he didn't even have a character development. He just, throughout the book, he seemed to take everything for granted. The end is pretty good to make him learn a lesson, and I liked the ending too. So I liked 2 things about this book. I think the ending was very appropriate. Another thing was the story took place during war and we saw basically none of it. Like at times I forgot that we were in war. Not only because we were busy going to the horse races or fishing with Henry's friend while he recovered from an injury, but when we were in war, everything just seemed so easy. I don't know, everything was just too convenient in every single part of the book. So the stakes were really, really low for someone who is at war. He escaped in a boat with his love, Catherine, to Switzerland. And it was just too easy. I don't know. I would have thought that rowing from a country to another would be very hard, but apparently it's not. And going back to the characters, I absolutely hated every single one of the female characters in this book. They were all just basically boobs on legs that were overly emotional. This book had an overall rating of 2 stars. What I will say is that I'm gonna continue reading Hemingway because I liked his writing style and, well, some aspects of the story. If I absolutely hated the book, I would not have finished it. But I will try some of his more famous books in the future. And fun fact, this book is based in his real life experience as an ambulance volunteer in World War I in Italy. And he actually fell in love with a British nurse. But the British nurse broke up with him. I'm gonna try a better book of his than his broken-hearted novel. The next book is part of a book club that I have with a friend. And she suggested we read Fourth Wing. This book has taken the internet by storm. I see this book everywhere on TikTok, everywhere on YouTube. Everyone is talking about it, and it has a surprisingly high score of 4.7, I think, in Goodreads, which is too damn high for the first book in a series, especially because usually second books in series have a higher rating because the first book already took out the readers that weren't interested in the series in the first place. So of course second books have a higher rating because you're already interested in the series, no? So this book is about Violet Sorengale. Yeah, Sorengale. Who was supposed to become a scribe, that is basically a scholar, but by the orders of her commanding general, which is also known as her mother, but she is a commanding general of the army or whatever, she is ordered to join the candidates to become a dragon rider. So it's fantasy romance, my favorite. So this book had a lot of things in its favor because I love fantasy, I love dragons, I love challenges and romance and all of that. So this was like the perfect cocktail for me, and it did deliver. I really did like this book. I wouldn't say it deserves a 4.7 in Goodreads. Like, people are just overly hyped about this book. Like, it's the greatest novel of all time, and it's not. I really, really did like the feeling this book gave me. Like, I was in the bus, I was driving, or I was walking somewhere, and the only thing I wanted to do was to continue reading. So rude. And after finishing the farewell tomes, where I had to physically force myself to continue reading the book, this just was everything I needed. Something easy and quick and fun to read. It has a really cool concept, but I felt like the world building was a little bit lacking. Like, I wanted to see more of it. But the second book comes out in November, and it's a 5-book series, so I expect to be a lot more of developments as we go along. So I kind of wish it was a little bit more, but I'm not mad. The banter between our love interests is just so good. I love that. There's nothing else to say. Like, they drove this book. Every single time they interacted, I was eating it up. I just wanted to see more of them, and I think we will. The thing that I like the most about this book was how it manages to make high stakes. Unlike A Farewell to Arms, where we were in literal war and it felt like a stroll in the park, here in every single challenge and thing that our character has to go through, you worry for her, you feel anxious and you stress out because you don't really know how things are going to develop. And that's really hard to make, because this makes us want to root for our characters more, and we feel bad or we feel sad or angry at certain characters and things that happen because we are very invested in the story because the stakes are high. So that's something that made me enjoy the book even more. And just like with the world building, characters are a bit superficial, but it didn't matter because I had fun reading them, and we have 4 more books to go. So I would hope they get less superficial in the second book and we get a lot more of substance in character development in the books to come. The writing could be better. It felt like a 2011 young adult book. There's work to be done. But the thing is, sometimes I don't care if I'm having good time, so yeah. Originally I gave this book a 4 stars just as I finished it, but after all the reasons I gave, I lowered it to a 3.5. The 4th book I read last month was finally A Court of Silver Flames. Yes! I love the cover of this book, honestly. I just really liked it. This bothers me though, because the other books don't have anything in the spine, so it looks uneven. This book is about Nesta, the eldest sister from our main character in the other 4 books. Yeah, I don't want to say anything else to spoil it. Honestly, I'm glad that I didn't read it right away, because this was the time to read it. I was hyped about Fourth Wing, and I wanted another fantasy kind of read, and this was easier because it was a world and characters that I already knew, so it was easy to get into, and I just loved it. I loved it. At first I didn't understand why we needed a 5th book with Nesta's point of view, and especially one this long, but I get it now. I do. Something that happened to me while I was reading it is that one day I was reading this book in public and I accidentally gasped a little too loud, and that was embarrassing. And even though it is very long, it's almost 800 pages. Yeah, it's 757 pages long, but even though it was long, it didn't felt long, so that's good. I recommend this series to anyone who's interested into trying out fantasy adult romance novels, because the world building is easy and the romance is almost everything, and that's what I like, because it's not everything. It's a very important part, but it's not everything, and that's what I love. My final rating for this book is a 4 out of 5 stars. And the final 2 books that I'm gonna talk about are ones that you're gonna see in a future video, because I went to the beach and wanted to make a summer reading vlog, so I did. The first book is It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This book is about a famous Instagram model from LA that is sent against her will with her sister to a little seaside town where she meets a kind of attractive, hot captain. This has the grumpy sunshine trope. Of course, you can guess who is the grumpy and who's the sunshine just by literally looking at the cover. This is literally the definition of fluffy, easy rom-com book. So Piper, the Instagram model, and Brennan, the captain, are very lovely, and their interactions are very fun, and honestly, some of the scenes gave me secondhand embarrassment because I feel like that's something that would happen to me. And it was just so funny. I laughed out loud too. I am a very loud reader, if you could say. But for some reason, to me, it seemed like their connection was too quickly. Like, at one moment, they didn't really like each other, and at the next, they're in love. So, I don't know. That just seemed a little bit too insta-lovey for my taste. But meh. But it was good. The thing is that personally, I like the story to have something in addition to the romance. And I know this isn't the book to look for that, but I don't know. Generally, I like it more when it isn't just exclusively about the romance, but rather something else in the background or someone else that gives us a little bit more tension that may have consequences with the main storyline. Although it took me more than I expected and wanted to read it, I understand why people like it, even though I didn't really like it. I don't know. I maybe wasn't in the mood for it or anything, but yeah, it was fun. I gave it a 3 stars. And the final book I read this month is Book Lovers. Unlike It Happened One Summer, I actually devoured this book and I really, really, really like it. It is really funny, the order that I picked to read these books, because in the first paragraph of Book Lovers, they described perfectly the plot of It Happened One Summer, and I just found that very ironic and very funny. The book is about Nora Stephens, a literary agent that takes a trip with her sister to a little town to live her summer small town romance, like in the books she works with, only to cross paths with an important book editor called Charlie Lastra, also known as his work nemesis. I loved this book. I loved the work rivals plot. Emily Henry books are not only about the romance, like it's a big part of it, but they also have a lot of inner conflicts, and it just gives a lot more of substance to the story, and I love that. And I think this is also helped by how she creates her characters, because every single one of them I could meet in real life. They feel like real people with real problems, with real struggles, and that makes you like them more and connect with them. Yeah, the setting was great, the characters were fun. I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. So if you're interested in an easy romance that is not only about the romance, I highly suggest you read any of Emily Henry's books. I haven't read her latest book, Happy Place, but I'd recommend Beach Read and Book Lovers the most so far. So yeah. And now, my July TBR. The first book, I actually already started 2 of these books. I'm not gonna be very ambitious this month because I'm already filming this on the 9th of July, so. The first book in my TBR, I already started it, but I don't think I'm gonna finish it this month. I don't know, I like, sometimes I like to take my time with certain books, and this is one of them. So the book is El Infinito en un Junco by Irene Vallejo. I love it so far. I'm already on page 72 and I really like it. I wanted to read in Spanish, and something that was written originally in Spanish, not a translation. But yeah, that's the first book I started this month that is in my TBR, so if I finish it, great. If I don't, it's okay. The next book is one that has been in my videos since my first video on this channel, and is All the Light We Cannot See. This is my priority for this month, and I also already started reading it. I'm on page 26, and that one I am gonna finish this month. The next book is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is also a very, very popular TikTok and YouTube book, and most people that I've seen love it, but there are a couple that like more Daisy Jones and the Six. I loved that book. I absolutely adored that book, and you've probably already seen the TV adaptation of that book, and both of them are great. And I am very curious of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Like, I've had this for like a year now on my TV. Literally a year. I bought this a year ago. It's time to read it. I haven't read it because I am scared of it. Like, when something has a lot of hype, sometimes I just don't want to read it and I just get anxious with it. So yeah, but I'm gonna get over my irrational fear of The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, and then I'm gonna read it this month. And next up, I'm just gonna include this book because it's similar to like the aesthetic of Evelyn Hugo, and so is this one. the Liz Taylor ring. I haven't heard anyone talk about this book online, not even mention it. I didn't know it existed, but my cousin gave it to me, said it was fun, easy read with a lot of drama. And there's something that I really like to do for some reason, and it's to read books in historical order. So All the Light We Cannot See takes place during World War One. Then we have this one that takes place during the 60s. Yeah, 50s. During the 50s, in like the golden age of Hollywood. And then this one that takes place on the 70s. And I am not gonna add more books than these four to my July TBR, because I don't know what the world will bring. I'm gonna leave it open to whatever I feel like reading this month, besides these three. So yeah, that's everything I have for today. I hope you liked this video. I hope you like listening to me ramble on and on and on. And if you do, then subscribe and leave a like on this video so I know you like it. And comment if you have read about the Liz Taylor ring. Unless you're my cousin, because then I know you know about it. So if you're somebody else, anyone, please tell me if you have heard of this book. And that's it. Yeah, see you in the next video.